Hello folks and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at Gilmore Girls Season 1, Episode 9, Rory's Dance. And if you're new to these videos, then hi, my name is Scott. And have you ever noticed that Gilmore Girls is just chock full of pop culture references? The RPM, references per minute, is sky high compared to other shows. And most of the time, they just fly over our heads. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Most of the time, it's just... What did they say? Never mind, they're drinking coffee. Let's carry on. Well, the purpose of these videos is to look at each one of those references and give some context behind it so that next time you watch that episode on your personal watch through, you'll have the context, you'll have the background, you'll go, now I understand. I don't just have to nod and yeah, that was a good one. Now I actually get what's being said. And after we're done with the pop culture references, then I'll share a little bit of trivia and then give my review on the episode at the end. And as you're watching, don't forget that the comment section is open down below. So feel free to let me know of any pop culture references that you did know or any that you didn't know. And this is the first time you've actually understood it, because honestly, it's so fascinating to know where we all are on the timeline of actually understanding Gilmore Girls pop culture references. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like, but also if you don't want to miss out on future videos, why not hit the subscribe button as well? So in that way, you won't miss out on any future Gilmore Girls videos, on any future Friends videos, or any other shows that may be coming out in the future. Hit that subscribe button and you won't miss out. And also for something new, I've set up a Patreon. So if you wanted to show some extra support for me as I make these videos and also have your name pop up at the end in the credits section as a supporter of these videos, then feel free to head over to Patreon. The link is in the description down below. You can click on there and you'll see that there are different membership levels and each of them are at varying support levels, and 2 of them give you access to exclusive content that you won't see in public forums. So there you'll be having these short explanation videos that I do, but also over time, exclusive long-form videos such as this on TV shows that won't appear on YouTube. So if you did want to support, feel free to head over to Patreon and hopefully I'll see you there. But enough with the intro, let's jump into the episode, and I hope you're wearing your comfy shoes because we've been invited to a dance. So we're at Friday night dinner and Richard isn't there because he's in Prague.
How amazing is it that he's going to Prague?
It's supposed to be lovely, very dramatic castles everywhere.
Do you know that the cell that Václav Havel was held in is now a hostel? You can stay there for like $50 a night.
Václav Havel was a Czech playwright, dissident, and political leader who played a crucial role in the peaceful overthrow of communism in Czechoslovakia. Havel first gained prominence as a writer and intellectual, known for his plays and essays that criticized the oppressive communist regime. His activism made him a leading figure in the human rights movement and a key voice for political reform during the Cold War. Havel co-founded the Charter 77 movement in 1977, which called for the government to respect human rights. He was repeatedly imprisoned for his dissident activities, but his efforts culminated in the Velvet Revolution of 1989, a non-violent transition that ended communist rule in Czechoslovakia. Following the revolution, Havel was elected the first president of Czechoslovakia, serving from 1989 to 1992. And after the country peacefully split into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, Havel became the first president of the Czech Republic, serving from 1993 to 2003. And during his political activism against communism, Havel was closely monitored by the secret police and imprisoned multiple times, with his longest sentence lasting from 1979 to 1983. He was confined in a basement cell in a building opposite the police station in Prague, which had once been a convent run by the Franciscan Grey Sisters. And because under communism, religion was banned and the state had seized all church property. After the fall of communism, the convent was returned to the nuns, who converted part of it to a budget hostel called Pension Unitas. The income generated by people staying at the hostel helped them to restore the convent, the church, and other properties owned by the Grey Sisters. After welcoming over 150,000 guests through its doors, the hostel closed down in 2006, but reopened as the Unitas Hotel. And you can still stay there now, and it's reasonably priced, so I reckon if I ever get the money together to go over to Prague, maybe I'll stay there and do a little video on it. Link it back to Gilmore Girls. Because if Rory didn't get to stay in the hostel at the time, well, she's kind of missed a chance now because it's this nice hotel. So I'll stay on your behalf, Rory. That is the sacrifice I will make for you. But if they can't get a bed in that hostel, then Lorelai has some other ideas for accommodation.
Hey, maybe on our big trip to Europe we could go to Prague and stay in a cell.
Absolutely. And then we should go to Turkey and stay in that place from Midnight Express.
Midnight Express is a 1978 dramatic thriller based on the true story of Billy Hayes, an American student who is arrested in Turkey for attempting to smuggle hashish out of the country. The movie was directed by Alan Parker and written by Oliver Stone and did incredibly well amongst the critics, even earning 6 Academy Award nominations. The film follows Billy's harrowing experience as he is sentenced to a long prison term in a brutal Turkish prison. He was imprisoned for several years, and as his hopes begin to fade, he eventually planned a daring escape referred to as taking the Midnight Express. Spoiler alert, the escape was successful. He crossed the border into Greece, and 3 weeks later, he was back home. And so yeah, I totally see the logic. If you're going to stay in a prison cell that has now become a hostel in one country, why not continue this incarceration-themed tour and stay in a prison cell in another country? It's still a prison, mind, so you're just spending it in a prison. A rather harsh, unforgiving prison. Oh, the memories you'll make on vacation. So Rory has an upcoming formal at Chilton, but she doesn't want to go, and Emily is asking why.
What did you say to her?
What are you talking about?
If she doesn't want to go, then it must be because of something you said.
Mom, I promise, all I ever said to her about dances is that you go, you dance, you have punch, you eat, you take a picture, and then you get auctioned off to a biker gang from Sausalito.
Sausalito is a small city found in California. It's about 4 miles north of San Francisco, and look at it. Doesn't it look idyllic? It looks gorgeous. It used to be a fishing town and then a mining town, and because of its location on the bay, on the coast, a lot of people visit it because of how lovely it looks. And one of its claims to fame is, you know the Otis Redding song, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay? Well, the dock in the bay was in Sausalito. He wrote it whilst on a rented houseboat in Sausalito. That's where he started writing the song. That is the dock of the bay. Sausalito. But one of its other claims to fame is that it is somewhat referenced in the 1967 movie The Born Losers. It's an action movie and the first in the Billy Jack series, and follows the titular hero, a half-Native American Vietnam War veteran and martial arts expert who stands up to a violent motorcycle gang terrorizing a small unnamed Californian town. The gang, known as the Born Losers, intimidate and assault local residents, including women who testify against them in court. Billy Jack, a loner by nature, becomes their protector, risking his life to fight the gang and bring them to justice. And the story of the movie was actually based on a real incident from 1964, where members of the Hells Angels biker gang were arrested for raping 2 teenage girls in Monterey, California. And coincidentally, that real-life incident was what drove Hunter S. Thompson to write his first book, Hell's Angels, the strange and terrible saga of the outlaw motorcycle gang in 1966. And I'm sure if Rory's been keeping up with the Hunter S. Thompson reading list as prescribed by Dean in the last episode, remember me covering Hunter S. Thompson there? Then she would know all about the Hell's Angels and what happened in 1964 in Monterey, California. And so as such would know what happened in the movie The Born Losers. And so as such would definitely take notice of what Lorelai says and go, hey, you go to a dance, you go to a formal, yeah, drink some punch, and then, oh, look what happens. Yeah, makes me feel better about me not going to my school prom, because what if what Lorelai had described had happened to me? Oh no. At least I get to see a nice part of California though. Silver linings. And on the way home, Rory says how much she hates dances, and Lorelai has to kind of pick her up on it.
Except you've never actually been to a dance.
So?
So you really have nothing to compare it to.
No, but I can imagine it.
It's true. However, not really, since you've never actually been to one, you're basing all your dance opinions on one midnight viewing of 16 Candles.
16 Candles is a 1984 coming-of-age comedy directed by John Hughes, centered around Samantha Baker, played by Molly Ringwald, a teenage girl whose 16th birthday is overshadowed by her older sister's wedding. As her family forgets her big day, Samantha navigates the awkwardness of high school, dealing with crushes, embarrassing moments, and her quirky family. And the film really revolves around Samantha's unrequited love for the popular senior Jake Ryan, while she tries to avoid the unwanted attention of the nerdy but persistent Ted. And there is a scene at a dance which perfectly encapsulates this. You can see how heartbroken she is that the guy that she has a crush on is dancing with someone else, and then, oh, she turns around and look at the dancing that follows. And I totally get where Rory's coming from, because if this is your only point of reference for what a dance is, I would not want to go, because imagine this happening to you. No, thank you. Oh no, best to just stay at home alone. Another John Hughes film. Oh my God, that just came to me. Didn't even plan that. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. And Lorelai says, hey, you shouldn't knock something before you try it. And Rory has this response.
You should have a decent reason for hating something before you really decide you hate it.
Trust me, I'll hate it. It'll be stuffy and boring, and the music will suck, and since none of the kids at school like me, I'll be standing in the back listening to 98 Degrees, watching Tristan and Paris argue over which one of them gets to make me miserable first.
Rory says she'll be standing in the corner listening to 98 Degrees, who are an American boy band formed in 1996, and they're quite notable since they were formed independently, unlike many other boy bands at the time who were created and put together by record labels or producers. Their music primarily features R&B, pop, and soulful harmonies, with some of their biggest hits being Because of You, The Hardest Thing, I Do Cherish You, and True to Your Heart, which was the end credit song to Disney's animated Mulan. And I gotta say, I'm very grateful for this reference popping up so that I could have the chance to do some research on them, because I've never heard of 98 Degrees. I know none of their songs. I have never heard that band name before, but it finally gives me context of why this guy, Nick Lachey, is famous. Because I have seen him around on many shows being a host and that. I was like, how did he get his start? He got his start in 98 Degrees. So thank you, Rory, for your little reference right there, because now I finally got context of why I see this dude about. And this whole making videos for YouTube venture is now worth it because I finally got some clarification on who Nick Lachey is. There we go. Rory's given her possible version of events of how the dance could go, and now Lorelai's giving hers.
Okay. Or it'll be all sparkly and exciting, and you'll be standing on the dance floor listening to Tom Waits with some great-looking guy staring at you so hard that you don't even realize that Paris and Tristan have just been eaten by bears.
Tom Waits is an American singer-songwriter, musician, and actor known for his distinctive gravelly voice and also his experimental music and eclectic style. Emerging in the 1970s with a sound rooted in jazz, blues, and rock, has developed a reputation for his poetic lyrics and storytelling, often focusing on the lives of society's outsiders. And this quote from the Wall Street Journal sums him up perfectly. Waits has composed a body of work that's at least comparable to any songwriters in pop today. A keen, sensitive, and sympathetic chronicler of the adrift and downtrodden, Mr. Waits creates three-dimensional characters who, even in their confusion and despair, are capable of insight and startling points of view. Their stories are accompanied by music that's unlike any other in pop history. Very high praise indeed, and I do like Tom Waits. There's a lot of his music that I enjoy, and my favorite of his would be 219. It's a fantastic song, and it holds a very special place in my heart because that song was the inspiration for a show that I was in that went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival twice, 2 years consecutively before I went to drama school, and it was in a show called Hood, and there I was as the wolf in this sort of Tim Burton-inspired-esque Little Red Riding Hood story, which was also a lot of physical theatre and horrible, gruesome movements and that, and it was kind of based on a dance that was based on Tom Waits' song. So, yeah, holds a very special place in my heart. And I'm just thinking, if I also went to Rory's dance and Tom Waits started to play, maybe I could bust out some of that old choreography. I'm sure the Chiltern folk would love that. Now, Rory is discussing with Lane how she thinks Dean wouldn't want to go to the dance with her.
Rory, listen to me. There's absolutely no point in having a boyfriend if you can't get him to go to the dance with you. He's not my boyfriend.
Really?
No.
What is he then?
He's my gentleman caller.
Okay, Blanche.
So this is sort of a Schrodinger's reference right here. It can be one of two things depending on how you want to observe it. Firstly, when Rory refers to Dean as a gentleman caller, that is a reference to the 1944 Tennessee Williams play, The Glass Menagerie. To boil this incredible play down to its simplest points, it's about the struggles of dealing with this overbearing mother called Amanda as she looks to try and find a suitor, a gentleman caller, for her very shy daughter, Laura. Laura would often retreat into her collection of glass animals and not want to actually go out there and meet a man, and so Amanda's looking for a boyfriend, looking for a suitor, looking for a gentleman caller. Now, Lane's response is what's up for debate, for after hearing Rory going, a gentleman caller, she responds, okay, Blanche. So explanation number one is that another of Tennessee Williams was A Streetcar Named Desire, an extremely famous, probably the most famous piece of work of his, and the most famous character from which would be Blanche Dubois. And so Lane, hearing Rory making a reference to a Tennessee Williams play, she erroneously references another Tennessee Williams, because if she actually wanted to reference The Glass Menagerie, she would call her Amanda. But instead she goes, hang on, I know that's Tennessee Williams, and so what Tennessee Williams characters do I know? Blanche. Okay, Blanche. And possible explanation number 2 is that Lane is making a reference to the Golden Girls. Because referring to a boyfriend as a gentleman caller is a rather old-fashioned Southern States turn of phrase, and one of the characters in Golden Girls is a rather man-chasing Southern belle who is called Blanche. And so you can see Lane's line of logic, because hearing someone refer to their possible boyfriend as a gentleman caller would make her think, oh, that's rather a Southern thing to say. What other Southern characters do I know who talk about possible boyfriends? Oh yeah, Blanche from The Golden Girls. And so which one do you think it is? Because if we take it as a linchpin that Rory was in fact making a reference to The Glass Menagerie, then it's either that Lane has mistakenly referenced a character from another Tennessee Williams, written obviously the same connection there, or she has mistakenly thought that Rory was referring to Blanche from The Golden Girls. Whichever one it is down to your personal perspective, but just for administrative purposes, because it is depending on which side you see it, and there is only possible one explanation, because if you see that it is the Tennessee Williams route, then you wouldn't see the Golden Girls. If you think it's the Golden Girls, then you wouldn't see the Tennessee Williams. I will only count it as one reference. So when we get to the scoreboard at the end, this will only count as one reference. Hopefully that puts your minds at rest for the actual overall outcome and the overall numbers for the series. Anyway, we spent too much time on this now. I better move on, lest I slip into my Southern accent, because that was something I was quite good at drama school, and I'm not going to bring it out now. Maybe if I get cast in a Tennessee Williams play, I'll invite you along to it.
There he is. I should do this later. No, you have to do this now. Why? Because I have to go home soon, and my mom threw out our TV when she caught me watching V.I.P. So I'm bored, and I need some entertainment.
V.I.P. was an action comedy TV series starring Pamela Anderson. Her character, Valerie Irons, was a glamorous but clueless woman who worked at a hot dog stand and gets mistaken to be a bodyguard when she accidentally saves a celebrity. And wanting to capitalize on this, she sets up the Valerie Irons Protection Agency, or V.I.P. And although she has no actual experience, she hires a team of highly skilled professionals who handle dangerous and high-stakes situations, whilst Valerie still manages to scrape through on luck and charm. It was a rather satirical show that never took itself too seriously, and it was a rather guilty pleasure watch. And so, of course, the frothy, campy nature of it is definitely something Mrs. Kim would not approve of. So yeah, Lane, I don't blame you wanting to get your entertainment from elsewhere. Lorelai has just hurt herself making Rory's dress. Suki happens to come round and is offering some first aid.
Let's see. Wow. Okay, I got Percodan, Vicodin, Darvocet, and we'll take this one. It's a muscle relaxer, very mild, I promise.
Thanks.
3 drugs listed here in quick succession. Let's get through them equally as quick. Percodan is the brand name of a prescription pain medication that combines the opioid oxycodone and aspirin to relieve moderate to severe pain. You're going to see a little theme here that I can't say one of these specific words. Anyway, Vicodin is the brand name of a prescription pain medication that combines the opioid hydrocodone and acetaminophen to treat moderate to severe pain. I don't know if I've said that correctly, but at least anyway. And Darvocet was the brand name of a prescription pain reliever that combined the opioid propoxyphene with the acetaminophen to relieve moderate pain. Oh my gosh. It was withdrawn from the US market in 2010 due to safety concerns, including the risk of heart-related side effects and fatal overdose. Do you know what I'm really grateful for? Is that they do have these brand names, because could you imagine me at Boots trying to be like, hey, could I have an opioid propoxyphene with acetaminophen, please? Absolutely not. Oh, let's move on from this quickly. Emily has now rang up Lorelai to voice her concerns over Rory not going to the dance.
This may seem frivolous and silly to her now, but believe me, these are the kind of experiences you regret missing later.
Okay.
And regret can make you bitter. You want Rory to be bitter?
Well, sort of.
Lorelai.
What, Mom? She could make some cash off of it, become a crazy Oscar Levant kind of celebrity, go on talk shows, heckle Regis.
I wish you would take this seriously.
Oscar Levant was a multifaceted genius. He was a concert pianist, an author, an actor, composer, TV host, radio host, and many, many other things. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he was in such movies as Rhapsody in Blue, Romance on the High Seas, and one of my personal favourites, An American in Paris. And what Lorelai is referring to here is the fact that he was very open about his mental health. He suffered from hypochondria and he was committed several times over the course of his life. And he talked about this very freely and openly in memoirs and interviews. And so, of course, you could hopefully turn this bitterness into a chance to be interviewed by Regis Philbin, who was a beloved American TV host, actor, and media personality known for his energetic and charismatic presence. He gained fame as the host of popular shows like Live with Regis and Kathy Lee and the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. With a career spanning 6 decades, Philbin set a Guinness World Record in 2004 for having the most hours on camera with a staggering over 15,000 hours. That's insane. I mean, these videos take like 5 hours at a time. Imagine doing that 3,000 times. Probably will have to with how many episodes of Gilmore Girls and Friends there are. Oof. And Regis, he was a cultural icon, admired for his warmth, humour, and long-lasting impact on daytime TV. And so yeah, if you can lever that Oscar Levant energy into getting interviewed by Regis, it's the best of both worlds. So there's a queue of students to buy tickets for the formal, and Tristan asks Rory why she's there.
What are you doing here?
I like lines.
You know, the guy's supposed to buy the tickets.
Really? Does Susan Faludi know about this?
Susan Faludi is an American Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author known for her work on feminism, social criticism, and gender issues. She gained prominence with her 1991 book, Backlash: The Undeclared War Against American Women, which examines societal resistance to women's rights and feminism. And in 1999, she released the book Stiffed: The Betrayal of the American Man, a book that examines how conventional notions of masculinity have resulted in negative outcomes for many men. And so these ideas of how toxic masculinity can be and how it holds men back from actually being who they want to be and actually being better within society because they feel they have to fit into these certain boxes. Yeah, it's all explored there. I mean, that was in 1999 and still the conversation is going on to this very day. And the reason that Rory brings it up here is either because Tristan is saying that women can't buy tickets, only the men can buy tickets, and so that is referencing Susan Faludi's first book, Backlash, because it's saying, oh, you say that women can't be independent and have these rights to actually buy tickets, or he's fallen into a gendered stereotype by saying, oh, only men can buy tickets, and so that actually relates to her second book, Stiffed, because men are kind of being put into this position where it's actually a little bit inconvenient to be queuing up all day. And she's like, you know, if Susan Faludi knew about this, maybe that would influence her work a little bit more, because how unfortunate for you thinking that women can't do this just because you're a man, you have to do this. So either way, it is definitely a very apt Susan Faludi reference. It could just be to either one of those books. And Tristan wants to tell Rory something.
Well, look, okay, I'll confess something to you. I don't have a date.
Well, I hear Squeaky Fromme's up for parole soon. You should keep a good thought.
Lynette Alice Squeaky Fromme was the second member of the infamous Manson family, a cult set up in the 1960s in the United States. She gained the nickname Squeaky from ranch owner George Spahn because of the noises that she would make whenever he touched her. She wasn't involved with the Tant LaBianca murders. However, she did end up in prison because of the attempted assassination of President Gerald Ford in 1975. And though sent to prison, her story doesn't end there. No, in 1979, she was transferred from the Federal Correctional Institute for attacking a fellow inmate with a hammer. And then in 1987, she escaped from prison in order to try to meet up with Charles Manson, whom she claimed to still love. She was caught 2 days after. And in terms of her parole, she was first eligible in 2005, eventually having it granted in 2008. but not being able to leave right away as she still had to serve time added for the escape that she made years prior. She eventually left jail in 2009 and now lives in New York with her boyfriend. So Tristan, years after the fact, but maybe you could still get that dance? Rory's almost ready for the dance, but she just needs a little bit of touching up first.
God.
Okay. That'll be good for 6 slow dances, 4 medium ones, 1 lambada. But if you plan on doing any moshing, I suggest another coat.
No, I think I'm good.
The lambada is a Brazilian dance and musical genre that originated in the late 1980s, known for its lively, rhythmic style and seductive movements. It combines elements of various Latin and Caribbean dances and is categorized by hip movements and partner work, and often performed to upbeat tropical music, and is associated with themes of love and passion, and its sexy nature is why it's been often referred to as the forbidden dance. And talking about being physical, moshing is a form of energetic dance that's often seen at punk rock, metal, and hardcore music concerts, where participants in the dance, they push or they slam into each other in a chaotic manner. It typically occurs in the pit area near the stage, and moshing allows fans to express their excitement and release their energy, though it can lead to injuries if they're not careful. So whether you're doing some forbidden hip swaying or just absolutely jumping into one another, you can be safe and secure that none of your hair will fall out of place after all that has been sprayed in. And now, Emily has turned up.
We're in here!
We're in here? That's how you answer the door?
Well, I was all out of saran wrap.
I don't even want to figure that one out.
I got you, Emily. I'll figure it out for you. Saran wrap is just a brand name of cellophane, plastic film, plastic wrap, whatever you call it, wherever you are. It's that clear, see-through stuff that can stretch a little bit and you put it over bowls or food in order to keep it preserved. Now, Emily wasn't greeted at the door, and Lorelai says it's because she was out of saran wrap. This is a reference to a scene from the 1991 movie Fried Green Tomatoes. In one scene in the movie, Kathy Bates' character, Evelyn, attempts to rekindle her marriage by greeting her husband at the door, wrapped only in saran wrap. And she got the idea to do this from the 1973 self-help book, The Total Woman by Maribel Morgan. And Morgan, who was known for her marriage advice that was rooted in evangelical Christianity with a distinct anti-feminist perspective, recommended that women greet their husbands at the door in alluring outfits, with saran wrap being one of the suggestions. And so you have to feel for Evelyn, who thought this was a great piece of advice, and so gets wrapped up like yesterday's leftovers, and unfortunately it didn't have the desired effect. And to be honest, it is a shame that Lorelai didn't don this outfit, because I would have loved to have seen Emily's reaction to that. It would have been worth the environmental cost of using all that plastic. And Emily is clearly excited to see her granddaughter all dressed up.
I just want to see my granddaughter. Where is she?
Kitchen.
Oh, perfect. I want to be all ready for the big entrance. How's the light in here? Never mind. I'll just take one with a flash and one without to make sure we've got it right.
Wow, Mom, look at you. You'd think Ann Taylor was having a sale or something.
Ann Taylor is an American clothing retailer known for its stylish and sophisticated women's apparel, primarily focusing on workwear, casual wear, and formal attire. Founded in 1954 in New Haven, Connecticut, the brand caters to professional women seeking elegant and timeless clothing options, and is recognized for its commitment to quality, fit, and classic designs, making it a popular choice for women in the workplace and beyond. And I will have to admit here, I don't quite understand the actual joke itself. If someone wouldn't mind chiming in a little bit, because Emily is very excited to be taking pictures of Rory, one with flash, one without. And then Lorelai says, and I quote, "Wow, Mom, look at you. You'd think Ann Taylor was having a sale or something." And I don't quite understand the percent. Is she trying to say that, I've just got it. I've literally just got it as I was saying that. Okay, Emily is showing such levels of excitement to see her granddaughter that the only other time Lorelai has seen such levels of excitement is when Ann Taylor is having a sale, because obviously Emily would shop at Ann Taylor and everything on sale. Oh, she's going to be excited for that. There we go. That makes sense. So there's a whole thing because Dean has turned up and he's honking the horn to signal to Rory that he's here to pick her up. And Emily has gone, whoa, no, you're not at a drive-thru. She's not fried chicken. You don't honk for someone to come out. You come to the door, you introduce yourself, you stay for some light conversation, and then you go to the dance. Eventually, he figures out he has to come to the door, and he's welcomed in.
Hey, Dean. Meet my mother, Emily Post.
Emily Post was an American author, socialite, and etiquette expert, best known for her influential book, Etiquette in Society, in Business, in Politics, and at Home, first published in 1922. She became a leading authority on social conduct, providing guidance on proper behavior in various situations, from dining to business interactions. Post's work helped shape modern American manners and established her as a cultural icon in etiquette. Over the years, she expanded her brand, creating a series of books and columns on etiquette, and founded the Emily Post Institute in 1946, which still operates to this very day, teaching civility and good manners in America and across the world. And if there's anybody who should be going to said institute, it's Dean, because yeah, honking outside repeatedly just for someone to come to a dance to go to Chilton, I wouldn't say that's very couth, would you? Because do you also remember a similar scene in Modern Family? It was the episode where Andy was making a green screen video for his girlfriend Beth, and then Haley's date had slept through when she was meant to be picked up, and then he eventually turns up and he's honking the horn. He's like, oh, you only honk for the troops. And he says all this stuff, and then Haley comes out and is like, what? Why you open the door for me? You're only honking and all of that. That guy there, he's the D-bag for not turning up at the door and knocking and all of that. So just by the transient properties of actually, yeah, that means Dean is a D-bag as well. I'm really heavily on the hating Dean train. I'm fully on it. There's no stopping for me. I'm going all the way to the terminus. Oh, Dean, you're not escaping my scathing reviews, that's for sure. Rory's now left for the dance, and Emily's realizing just how bad a situation her daughter is in, and so she offers to stay.
I'll go start some tea. Please tell me you have something besides Lipton.
Lipton was set up by Thomas Lipton in Scotland in 1871. And the name covers a lot of different products, but it is most famous for its tea. And the tea is sold and drunk all over the world. And as such, it is a rather commercial tea brand, so it doesn't really match Emily's rather refined palate when it comes to tea, you know, very specific leaves and all of that type of stuff. But I gotta say, even though I'm not a tea drinker, I don't like hot drinks, I am a big fan of their iced tea. Oh my gosh. Get me some peach iced tea, some lemon iced tea, some mango Lipton iced tea. Forget about it. Oh God, when's the last time I had iced tea? I think I need to go and buy some. Thank you, Emily, for bringing that to my attention. I really need some iced tea. Forget the Shirley Temples. I need some iced tea. On the way to the dance, Rory is maybe having second thoughts about going.
I mean, it's just a dance. What's the big deal?
Beats me.
And these kids at my school, awful. Have you seen The Outsiders?
Yeah, I have.
Just call me Ponyboy.
The Outsiders is a 1963 book written by S.E. Hinton that was adapted into a movie in 1983, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, with a pretty damn stacked cast. You've got Matt Dillon, Patrick Swayze, Emilio Estevez, Diane Lane, Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe. I mean, crikey. The film follows the lives of two rival teenage groups, the Greasers, a gang of lower class boys, and the Socks, who are wealthy. The lead of the story, Ponyboy, played by C. Thomas Howell, is a greaser who loves to read and enjoys school, but gets caught up in a tragic accident precipitated by others in his gang. And so it's the perfect analogy for Rory, as she feels she's Ponyboy, being from a lower socioeconomic background compared to those at Chilton, and also relating to him on a more personal level because of his love of literature and learning. But hopefully that's where the analogy ends, because we don't want any fatal accidents on the next page of your story, do we? No, let's end the comparisons there, shall we? Back in the house, and Emily is on the hunt for something.
What are you doing, Mom?
I'm trying to find the candlesticks I bought you.
What candlesticks?
The Baccarat candlesticks I bought you last year for Christmas.
Baccarat, getting its name from the town that it started in, is a French manufacturer of fine crystal glassware that was founded in 1764 by King Louis XV. And in 1948 in New York, an American subsidiary of the company opened up. And this is an example of what Baccarat candlesticks would look like. And aren't they pretty? Aren't they gorgeous? They would cost a pretty penny. So to know that they've been exchanged for a monkey lamp, ooh, that's not a very good exchange right there. But what is it with Emily and candlesticks? Like, she's gifting them, she wants to make sure they're evenly placed, 6 inches apart. Like, wow, did she not grow up with electric lamps? Now we're at the dance and all eyes are on Rory and Dean.
Wow.
What?
Rory Gilmore. God, she's got good hair.
Who's the ditch?
Beats me.
He's not from the manor born, that's for sure.
Someone who is of the manor born is someone who has acquired genteel tastes and habits by virtue of having been born into a privileged class. It finds its origins in Shakespeare's Hamlet, where the titular prince says, "Though I am native here and to the manor born, it is a custom more honoured in the breach than the observance." And the phrase is spelt this way, but sometimes it gets changed to this way, manor with an O-R, which actually is a pun, which works the same kind of way, because a manor is a really fancy house in an estate, and so it suggests noble origins. So even though both of them actually mean the same thing and work the same way, that one, am I pointing in the right place? Hang on, where's the camera? There it is. That one is the correct one. So Louise is saying, oh, I don't know who this guy is, but he's not of the manor born, i.e. he's not from this wealthy class, this high cut of the cloth, because we would have known who he is, surely, if he'd been in these circles. Maybe you just need to get into the right circles in Chicago. That's where you need to go, Louise. Back at the house, Emily and Lorelai are watching a movie.
Oh, look, Barbara Stanwyck. I just love Barbara Stanwyck.
Oh, yeah. She's good.
She had that wonderful voice, that husky, deep voice. I just love that voice.
You know, Mom, you have kind of a Barbara Stanwyck-y voice.
Oh, I do not.
I mean it. You could have gotten Fred McMurray to off Dad if you'd really wanted to.
4-time Academy Award nominee and 1-time winner Barbara Stanwyck had a 60-year career on screen and made 85 films in 38 years. Whew. And as Emily said, she had a wonderful voice. And let's be honest, it would be much nicer listening to her than me. So here's a clip of her in action.
How would you like to have a nice grand piano in this room?
Thanks, no pianos. I used to hear one all day long.
Why, did somebody in your home play the piano?
Anybody that had a nickel.
Huh?
Oh, I was only kidding. Of course, if Fuzzy Wuzzy really wants to give me something, he could put a few more pennies in my bank account.
My dear, ask me something difficult.
And also mentioned in that clip was Fred McMurray, who was a prolific screen actor starring in over 100 films in a 50-year career period. However, his most famous role is in the film Lorelai is referring to, Double Indemnity, co-starring Barbara Stanwyck. In the film, Barbara's character wants to take out an insurance policy on her husband, and Fred plays the insurance broker. They then spark up an affair together and plot to murder the husband in a way that would activate the double indemnity clause, which is when insurance companies pay out double the amount of life insurance if the death seems accidental. And if you want to know how that plot plays out, you're going to have to watch it yourself. I'm not going to give away any spoilers here. And so Lorelai's saying, Mum, you are so Barbara Stanwyck that you could have convinced Fred McMurray to do away with Daddy's corpse. But maybe just use your voice to stick to an audiobook instead, I don't think. Murder of a spouse is good. Now there's a little bit of a ruckus between Dean and Tristan.
You got in my path, not the other way around. You're kidding, right?
Why, are you going somewhere?
Get out of my way, Tristan.
Well, aren't you clever?
Dristan is a type of over-the-counter medication made by Pfizer that helps with any sort of nasal issues. So if you've got congestion, if you've got a runny nose, a blocked nose, you take Dristan to help you with that. And wow, Dean, your humor, you should write for Leno, because you heard the name Tristan and you were like, what's a good way to get at him? I know, I'll call him this type of medication that you take if you've got a runny nose or an allergy. Hey, Tristan. Wow, you're so witty, Dean. You're so witty. It's incredible. I can see. You should go into stand-up. I'm not very good at hiding my disdain for Dean, am I? And I don't care. Obviously riled up by that cutting remark from Dean, short of throwing punches, Tristan is throwing remarks.
Well, I hate to break up the party, but we should go.
Oh, why? Little girl's gotta be home.
Stop.
No, I think you two make a very cute couple. Is your horse and buggy parked outside? Gotta get home for the barn raising.
Now, this is just another reference to the Amish. I covered them in either the previous episode or the episode before, so make sure to have a look back at that for the full explanation, but it is just another reference. I will be counting it on the scoreboard right here, and the reason that they're mentioned in this context is because Tristan is saying that Stars Hollow is very antiquated, it's very old-fashioned, there's not much going on. Yet another hit, another punch to be like, oh, I'm from the upper class and y'all are not. And so there's that disparity of wealth, and obviously, like, I can afford a car, you can't, and it's the Amish thing. Anyway, go back to the other one to check out the full reference of that, but I'm definitely counting it. Let's move on. Rory and Dean have now left the dance, and Dean has just made a discovery.
You brought a book to the dance?
Yeah?
You thought there'd be a lot of downtime?
No. I just take a book with me everywhere. It's just habit.
So, what are you reading?
The Portable Dorothy Parker.
Dorothy Parker was an American poet, writer, critic, and social commentator known for her sharp wit and satirical style. A prominent figure in the early 20th century literary scene, she was a founding member of the Algonquin Round Table, a group of New York City writers and intellectuals. And Parker gained acclaim for her poetry, short stories, and essays, and her writing often addressed themes of love, loss, and the struggles of women in society. And the book that Rory has with her is The Portable Dorothy Parker, which is a collection of her poems and stories and journalism pieces that was first published in 1944 and revised in 1973. And if you're wondering where you may recognize the name Dorothy Parker from, well, if you watch Gilmore Girls all the way to the end, and then you have the credits, when you see the production slides right at the very end, there we go. Dorothy Parker drank here. And that is Amy Sherman Palladino's production company. She's obviously a huge fan of Dorothy Parker, so much so that she named her production company after her. And so though you may think this is the first time Dorothy Parker's actually been mentioned in Gilmore Girls, no, because she's evidently been in every episode thus far.
There's little in taking or giving. There's little in water or wine. This living was never a project of mine.
And I won't count this as a separate reference, but just so you have all the information, the poem that has just been read out was Coda, and it was written in 1928 and published in Sunset Gun Poems by Dorothy Parker. And there we go, folks. That was every pop culture reference for Gilmore Girls Season 1, Episode 9, Rory's Dance. And as we're jumping into the tally right here, I'm going to tell you, I was really worried about this at the beginning because there was literally like 10 or 15 within the first 5 minutes. I was like, I'm going to be here for a week, aren't I? Thankfully, it kind of petered out a little bit towards the end. Whew, but we still managed to rack up quite a score. Let's see how many there were. So there was a nice variety of pop culture references here from all different backgrounds and genres, and when we tally it up and take the full total for Season 1, Episode 9 of Gilmore Girls, we have 28 pop culture references explained, meaning that we have come out of that little dip as we saw in the last episode, and we are back on the up. And when we take a look at where it stands within the rankings of the season thus far, it comes in at joint 4th place, tying with episode 4, The Deer Hunters. So didn't get a podium position, but that's absolutely fine. We'll see what the next episode brings. But for now, let's take a look at some trivia. At the dance, they talk about Dean's height, and he says that he's 6'2". Jared Padalecki, who plays Dean, is actually 6'4". Maybe he was actually 6'2" at the time, and then that little scuffle with Tristan actually bumped him up a couple of inches. Maybe that's how it works. Tristan's date is seen dancing with another guy at the dance as Paris confronts Rory about bringing her cousin. So this was Sissy, Tristan's date, and they go off to make out with one another, and then she's seen later on dancing with someone else. And I've just got to tell you, Tristan, if you've gone off and made out with someone, and then she's come back and starts dancing with someone else, you didn't do a very good job at making out. Is what I'm going to say there. You didn't do a very good job. So in all fairness, I think Rory's making a good decision avoiding you, and I think Paris should stop fawning over you as well, because if your making out skills are that bad that your date then has to come in and dance with someone else, that's embarrassing, bruh. That's embarrassing. And now we're done with the trivia and on to my review of the episode. So the title of this episode is Rory's Dance, which, gives the exact plot point of what this episode is about. It all centers around this Chilton Formal that Rory will go to. And when you start watching the episode, you think that this is going to be a story following Rory and about the steps that she takes as a teenager. You know, this is a huge thing for her. It's her first dance. She's gaining a boyfriend, her first boyfriend. There's that whole conversation at the beginning of like, what do we call one another? Do I ask him to be my boyfriend? These are huge steps in any teenager's life. And so you would think that this is her story. This episode is about her. It's not. This episode is all about Emily. And I say it every time she pops up. Emily Gilmore is an absolute powerhouse of an individual. Such a well-crafted character and such a presence that anytime she's in a scene, she steals it. She is an absolute force to be reckoned with anytime she's on screen. And there's a lot of teenage drama that punctuates this episode. As I just said, like there's that whole conversation of, oh, is he my boyfriend? Is he not? Do I ask him to the dance? Shall I? And then she goes into the grocery store and asks him out and Lane's watching. They get all giggly about it. And then, you know, choosing the dress, taking the pictures on the stairs. That all belongs in a coming of age movie. And then the rest of the movie would follow it all at the dance. You wouldn't cut back to home. It would just follow the events of that evening. And we get to see more of the evening where, you know, they're actually at the dance and Dean, you know, wraps his arms around her for the first time in public and they kiss in public and people are watching on and, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening there. There's a lot of drama, a lot of teenage drama there. Then there's that fight. You know, all those things are very much bullet points, stereotypical, stock storylines of teenage dramas. But as I say, it's the presence of Emily within this mix that really makes it different, because there's a line at the end that Rory says, and it very much encapsulates what the whole episode is about. When it's discovered that Rory spent all night out with Dean and they fell asleep in Miss Paddy's, and then, you know, she runs home and everything, Emily has a go at Lorelai and Lorelai has a go at Emily. Emily storms out, and then Lorelai is having a go at Rory, and Rory says to the effect of, "You're only mad because your mom saw this. You know I did nothing wrong. You know it was an innocent mistake. You're only mad because grandma was here. If Emily wasn't there, there wouldn't have been an issue. Rory would have slept over and, woken up. That's a shame, run home. Lorelai would still be asleep. She wouldn't have noticed. If the story did then get out, much like when there was the story of her kissing Dean, it would have been a thing of like, why didn't you tell me? But then they would have caught up about it and it would have been fine because she knows her daughter. She knows how innocent she is. She knows she would do nothing wrong. But Emily being a presence there is a reminder of who she was when she was a kid. Because what's beautiful about the whole setup of this show is that you see Lorelai's life from 0 to 16. And that was Emily and Richard's involvement with her. And then it's the wasteland after that. They barely see her. They barely talk to her. They barely know anything about her. And now they get to pick it up from Rory at 16 and carrying on. And so a lot of that maternal attitude that Emily had towards Lorelai, that just then got cut off at 16. She hasn't been able to use it. And so she puts it on Rory, and you see it so much throughout, her being so excited to take the pictures of her on the stairs because she didn't get to take the pictures of Lorelai, or at least to the effect of, I get to do this and be proud of it. Lorelai would be kicking up a fuss, or she'd be on the back of the motorcycle with Christopher, all of that type of stuff. And, they say like a grandparent gets to be a parent again with their grandchildren. She really does get to do that here. Like, she doesn't get to relive being a parent. She actually gets to kind of experience it for the first time because she had the first 16 years of being a parent. But then after that, she wasn't the parent anymore. She didn't get to see anything after that. And so she gets to pick it up with Rory. And so her being there gets to put a little bit of a salve on that wound from all those years ago. 16 years ago to be exact. But then it carries on and bleeds into the rest of everything else. And that's where it starts to get a little bit tricky because she sees that her daughter is in a bad way. And so maternal instinct comes in. What's the matter with you? Why are you hurt? What's happening? I'm going to look after you. No, I'm not coming home tonight. I'm staying here. And she dotes on her. She mothers her. She cooks her food that she cooked her when she was a baby. She wants to, make sure she's comfortable. They're watching a movie together. She tucks her in. She takes the hair out of her face. Like, it's beautiful. There's such beautiful moments, and those moments very much help to heal some of the wounds that have been open all this time, that have been open but they don't wince at anymore. They're open wounds that no one's going over because they've gotten used to it. They just accept it's there. And the thing is, as the wounds start to close, you start to notice the pain more, because then the next bit where, you know, it's the next morning, Rory's not there. Bam. You've started to put the wound back together, and so your focus is on that. And because your focus is on that, all of the reasons of why the wound is there to begin with suddenly come back to a head, because Emily kind of breaks down about like, oh, it's happening again. You have done this. This is happening again. She even says she's going to get pregnant. She's going to throw her life away. She's ruined her life. All of this stuff because she's seen it happen. She doesn't know what the next bit is. She just knows the pattern. She knows it's there, and she hasn't had the experience of what it's like to have a child to not go down that path, to go down a different path. She just thinks, it's going to repeat. And Lorelai is afeared of that as well. Like, she knows her daughter is very much like her. She knows that in many different ways, but she also knows there are differences. There's a beautiful bit at the beginning when they're driving home from the Friday night dinner, and Rory says, I don't want to go to a dance. I don't want to go to the dance. I don't like dances. I'm not interested. And Laura's like, okay. And she knows the similarities between her and Rory. She knows they get on in certain ways. They know they have these shared interests. They know all these different things. But she also knows the differences that they have. And Lorelai is a person who is very confident in herself, very confident in the qualities that she has. And she knows that she's a very social person. She knows she's very good at making friends, at talking to people. It's even brought up in one of the previous episodes when Dean comes round to watch Willy Wonka and they're sitting on the bed and Rory's like, how do you do it, Mom? How do you do it? Like, I can read books all night. I can do calculus. Yeah, but how do you talk to guys? And Lorelai's like, well, it's like this, hun. You do it this way. She knows the strengths that she has that maybe Rory lacks. And wanting her to go to the dance, she is pushing her in that direction because she knows that is sort of a quote unquote weakness of Rory. She doesn't want her to be so shy. She wants to make sure that she has a full and enriched life. And so she wants to push her in that direction. And she wants to support her and give her the strengths that she knows maybe her daughter is lacking. And so giving her that strength, she feels that she's pushed her into a position to be a little bit more like her, because Rory wouldn't have gone to the dance except Lorelai is sort of wanting to impart that on her, to share that little bit of her strength and make her a little bit similar. And so in an awakened state at 5:30 in the morning, pre-coffee, her mother shouting at her, Lorelai's like, oh my gosh, I have made my daughter to be more like me. Did she tip too far over the edge? Did she tip into a territory that I know I've been protecting her from all these years? Because even in the very first episode, we see it right there as well. When Rory's on about, oh, I don't want to go to Chilton. I don't want to go to Yale, whatever. I don't want to do these things. And Lorelai's like, it's because it's a boy. You're exactly like me. There's a boy and you're going to throw it away, because she knows this is the thing. Lorelai was on a path to a certain direction and then a boy came in. A boy who is somewhat like Dean came into her life and she went off into a different path. And she can see that happening right now. And in that frenzied state of having her mom shouting at her and the wound being exposed yet again and going, yeah, you're right, Mom, because it happened to you and thus it'll happen to me, won't it? We're in the same situation right here. It just all spirals, and she forgets who her daughter is. She forgets, oh yeah, you are this sweet girl who wouldn't do these things that I have done. Like, we are different in so many ways, but she can only see the similarities as printed out on paper. Getting a phone call at 5 a.m. to go, oh, your daughter was seen sleeping with some other guy. Like, yeah, but she knows it's innocent. She knows it's not. But, you know, when the facts are put out in front of you, it's a whole different story. And I'm thinking back what I've just said right there, and I'm not sure if it was the most cohesive thing. I had a lot of thoughts and I was just running through them. But yes, I would say that Emily is the one who suffers the most throughout all of this, if I'm honest, because she wants to see this sort of unfinished path carried on with her granddaughter in the place of her daughter. And as she sees the progression of the construction of this path, she's rebuilding things with her daughter and then seeing it sort of crumble. I mean, like, there's those beautiful moments where Lorelai says, you know, thank you, Mummy. And she sits and she's reading a book in the corner. Like, that's so beautiful. And she wants to be there to look after her. And all of this. And, you know, the compliment she pays when Lorelai says, Mum, I made the dress. And she goes, well, it was very good. It was very good. Like, it's so beautiful. She wants to have that relationship with her daughter. And, you know, her granddaughter is the surrogate for that relationship of the 16-year-old daughter. These things keep coming in the way. And it's such a tragic setup for Emily, because so far, every time we've seen Emily and Lorelai building a bit of a relationship, you know that it's going to come before a fall. The episode where they're shopping together and they're really bonding, you know it's going so well. You just know also that it's not going to end up nicely, because that's the condition. You know things can start out well, quote unquote well, and end up not so well, because that is the story of Lorelai to a certain degree. You know, she started out from the perspective of Emily. She started out with all the trappings of being well and ended up in a not so well place. Because it comes up at the end of this episode as well. Emily says she's going to throw her life away, much like you did. And Lorelai comes straight back in and says, how dare you say that I threw my life away? Because if my life wasn't quote unquote thrown away, we wouldn't have Rory. We wouldn't have her right now. And Emily has to come back and says, you know, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. It's just Emily is one of those people who has the plan, who has the diary filled out with all of the social events for the next 5 years. She knows where she's going to be on any given day. She knows how things are going to progress. She knows the order of things. And Lorelai didn't fit that. Lorelai went off the edge on the motorbike with that. And it's tough for someone who is so structured to see such chaos. I mean, like when she's going around the house looking for the phone and she's like, how can you not find anything here? Everything's so disorganized and so messy. What if there was an emergency? What if there was a fire? Like, Emily is the person who needs things to be in place, whether it is physically around her or just in life. She needs things to be in a structured order. She needs to know where everything's going to be. And Lorelai just isn't that type of person. And she can see Rory on the path of being structured. She knows where she's going to go to school. She knows what school she's going to go into. And she knows what she wants to do with her life. She can see it all planned out. Oh no, she has to go to the formal because that is the event that she has to go to. She knows all of these things. But then, oh, she doesn't turn up. It's all falling apart again. The one little stick in Kaplunk has been pulled out and now it's all going to start to tumble. The one Jenga brick has been pulled away. It's unstable now. And it's so tough to see Emily really wanting to reclaim something that she feels she might have lost. And it's out of her hands. It's out of her way. She just leaves. She lives an hour away. Like she can just remove herself, but she doesn't want to remove herself. And it's tough to see Lorelai wanting to rebuild that bridge with her mom, but then going, oh, this is why we fell out. This is why. Like, oh, the closer we get, the more I see the reasons why we were so far apart to begin with. And mixed up in all this is Rory, who is also a victim of all of this. Like, she didn't really want the typical teenage experience, but her mom said, look, have it. It'll be good for you. It'll be great. You'll have a party. It'll be fun. You'll have some memories. And she goes, okay, I can afford to be a teenager because usually I'm not. I'm out there just reading a book on the bus stop by myself. I don't really go to parties. I'd rather study. Maybe I'll just do the typical teenager thing. And she does that. And she's got her boyfriend and he's, you know, tall and hunky and he stands up for her and all of that. He protects her honor and whatever. And she gets that experience. And then, you know, they're walking through the town at 9. They've got coffee and she says, do you want to be my boyfriend? And he's like, yeah. And she gets to have these typical teenage experiences. And it's like, yay, go Rory. You've got your boyfriend. You've got your night. You've got your memories, all of this. And then they're reading poetry together and then it all falls apart. I mean, it's so wonderful to have spent that first night with someone and it was purely innocent. They were just sleeping next to one another. But now it's a thing. Now because of the past traumas that have carried on, generational from her grandmother, from her mother, and now on this, all of that has been imparted because if that wasn't there, it would just be oh yeah, it was an accident. I'm so sorry to have stayed out past curfew. But it's been a huge thing. It blew up. And she says, you know, this was a perfect night. And then it ended so badly. And now her lovely moment is ruined. It's been taken away from her. And we see that quite a lot. I mean, like her first kiss kind of gets ruined because the story gets out, her mom finds out about it, and then it becomes a big deal. Her first sleeping next to someone is kind of a big deal. Even as we'll see much later on, her first time with actually sleeping with someone isn't the romantic, beautiful thing. There is kind of a big deal surrounded around that as well. And so this show is so good at really pulling the rug because it's so full of these pop culture references, which is the reason why I'm making these videos. There is so many links to humor, so many links to, oh, isn't that frothy and witty and these tete-a-tetes and repartee? It gives the impression of it being a comedy, but it is just laced with tragedy. It's laced with so much sadness and so much loss of hope in so many different situations because, gosh, people can try so hard to do the right thing and still it falls apart. Still it falls short and still you're left going, oh, this happy memory is now stained. There we go, folks. I should end the video there because I spoke for far too long. I mean, I wrote all these notes. And I think I talked for a little bit too long there. I'm not sure if it made much sense, so my apologies if it was all over the place. But yes, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for being here. As I say, don't forget that the comment section is open down below, so feel free to leave any of your thoughts in there. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. And if you don't want to miss out on any future videos, why not subscribe as well? Because if you hit that button, any videos for Gilmore Girls or Friends or any other videos, they will pop up. You won't miss out on them. And there you go. We'll just be in this together, won't we? And as I mentioned at the very beginning as well, I have just set up a Patreon. So if you want to show some support in another way, then feel free to head over to there. The link will be in the description down below. And as I say, there are different tiers. You can choose to have a look at some exclusive content if you so wish. But now is the time when your name will appear in the credits section. And I'll say thank you to everybody who supports me. So if you want to pop up here and be a supporter for this channel and these videos and support me in my work as I go through all of these episodes, then feel free to head over to Patreon and yeah, hopefully see you over there. And that is the outro done. And once again, thank you so much for being here, my friends. Luck and more to you all, and catch you next time.